If you are looking to scale beyond 50, 100, even $500,000 per month in revenue exclusively using Google Ads, I have the exact blueprint you need to make that happen. And in this video, I'm not gonna leave out any details of this exact blueprint, which I've been using to now scale over 500 brands beyond 6 and 7 figures per month in revenue. And it's gonna be almost difficult for you not to scale to 7 figures and even 8 figures once you know the exact blueprint I'm about to mention. But before we actually get into the step-by-step formula of what I have discovered scales most brands beyond 6 and 7 figures in total, I want to first take a step back and help you understand exactly what most brands get wrong, why they end up plateauing at even monthly revenue levels like $50,000 a month or $100,000 a month in general. Now, from my own experience, because I've been in the e-commerce industry since 2017, I first found my own success with my own e-commerce brands back in the day. And trust me when I say this, these are the exact issues which caused my brand to plateau at first 25K per month, then 50, then eventually 100. Each level of this plateau, however, made me learn something new, made me realize that what got me to this current level will not get me to the very next level. But the very first thing that kind of comes to mind, which I also see so many brands make mistakes within as of now and cause themselves to end up in this plateau, is their foundation. It's not built to support the scale. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good of a Google Ads media buyer you are, how good you're at pressing buttons within the campaigns, within the dashboard. What's gonna really scale your brand to the next level is the strength of your foundation, which simply means if your foundation is not strong enough to support that scale, it's not gonna scale to the next level, period. This is something that took me such a long time to really understand and really to digest, because like most brand owners, I thought that the majority of the results come from clicking a bunch of buttons or implementing a bunch of campaigns or strategies. And eventually, as time went on, as I was stuck in these plateaus for longer and longer periods of time, I came to realize that it's just not working out. It's because I'm not focusing on what matters the most, which is the foundation. But don't get me wrong, it's also important to have the right kind of campaign strategies. But what most brands get wrong is they focus on campaign strategies versus a better product feed or an ad copy approach. Again, the foundations and the fundamentals of what makes that ad itself work. There's only so much a performance max campaign can do, as if your ad itself, if the foundation itself is not strong enough to support that scale, it's just not gonna work for it. It just means having the right product feed, the right titles, descriptions, and there's just so many things you have to take into account. But along with that, you just gotta accept the fact that what got you to 50K a month, 100K a month, 200K a month is not gonna get you to the next level, because this strategy, it only has its limits. It has its capacity, which it has already most likely reached because it got you to this level. To get to the next level, you need to go into the unknown. You need to go and try things which you may have not already done. But the worst thing you can do, which I see so many brands overdo often, and as a result end up even in bigger plateaus, is they overcomplicate scale. Now, this 6-step blueprint is going to kind of work through all of these issues and make it easier for you step by step to scale to the very next level. But this starts us off with the first step of this blueprint, which is to scale with the foundation in mind. I already mentioned how important the foundation is, but the first step that you must implement and take care of at any given time is to start with the product feed itself. Ideally, product feed improvements. Now, in most situations, just having better product titles with proper SEO, keyword research, proper perceived value, product images, which are opposite of competitors, Google Merchant Center, lack of violation, so no policy violations, no product disapprovals, none of that stuff, or as close to zero as you can get it, and along with having the right product attribute section within the product feed. This alone is the core part of your foundation, and just doing this alone, even if it's not perfect, is more than enough. But once you have taken care of this portion of the foundation, this first step of this blueprint, you need to allow 7 to 14 days to go by. I see so many brands where they do all of these things and then they want next day immediate results. Well, the thing is, Google's algorithm is a search-based platform. It needs time to understand what changes you just did and then to react accordingly to the searches getting done within the market by your audience. This needs ideally 7 to 14 days. If your budget is smaller, 21 days. But once that's done, we move on to step 2 of this blueprint, which is now campaign optimizations. By this point, your campaign should have already internalized the changes you made within the product feed. It should already have gotten enough time to run with those changes and try to get you better results. Now you have a lot of data that has come in. Hopefully by this point, now you start optimizing the campaigns. This means any bad products need to be gotten rid of from your campaigns, any bad keywords, any bad ad copies not converting beyond your profit margins, ideally 2 times to 5 times your profit margins. The main goal here is to cleanse your entire campaign approach, cleanse the strategy and give it room so that it goes after the right people or after the right keywords at a much better pace. And during this time, what I also like to do is I like to start noticing what products are actually doing well or have scope of doing well, because the last thing I want to do is I want to let the bad products run within these testing campaigns or these scaling campaigns. So naturally what I like to do is I like to take out any bad product, any product that's losing money, and start placing it in its own losers campaign, as I like to call it. And this is what starts the segmentation strategy of this entire blueprint, where you can now start segmenting based on winners versus losers, sub collections, profit margins, or even simply products that already got tested versus products that are untested with 0 ad spend, 0 clicks, so on and so forth. So this kind of approach right here might take you a day or two, but essentially improving the current campaign setup and starting the segregation process, because that eventually, after you wait 7 to 14 days, again after this step, brings us to step 3, which is now the deep analysis stage. In this stage, we are essentially now have let the campaigns run for at least 7 to 14 days with the new kind of approach with sub-segmented categories of products and so on and so forth. Now we need to dive deep into the insight section of our major campaigns, or even on an account level, to understand what's working and what's not working in terms of keywords. What you want to do is you want to now find those keywords with high conversion rates, high monthly search volume, those increasing in sales for your brand or your products in general, because the main goal here is to take those winning keywords and now start sprinkling them back within your product feed. So your product titles, description, etc. Just throwing these keywords in there. The main goal here, again, is to identify the major keywords and then help the algorithm rank more for these keywords by sprinkling it throughout your product feed. That's essentially all you need to be doing. And this third step now is setting us a foundation for the upcoming stages, which now involve more of the scaling side. But by this third step, from my experience, at least working with so many brands, which, by the way, if you run a brand doing 50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google Ads, go on to my website at yourmarketing.com and schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. But from my experience, by this stage, brands usually start noticing things like better return on ad spend, better profitability, or also both better ROAS and better revenue. So the ad spend is starting to increase, ROAS is starting to increase, but at the same time, revenue is increasing. This is the beauty about approaching it in this 3-step process, where now you don't have to, at least on a very grave level, sacrifice between ROAS and revenue. In some situations, both of these can increase both at the same time, because this eventually brings us to step 4, which is cold traffic versus retargeting flows. Now, by this point, you should have a lot of activity going on within your campaigns, within your overall account, and you should have some data coming in. But the thing about this data that's coming in is it's a bit mixed. There's a handful of sales in here, which may be retargeting sales, branded traffic sales, so on and so forth. Ideally, we want to kind of make the account so that 80% of our traffic is cold, 20% or less is retargeting or branded traffic. So in order to have this happen, now during this step is where you start lowering your budget on the branded or retargeting campaigns, or slowly start incorporating new customer acquisition setting within your existing campaign. So if we go right here to this ad account right here, go into this Performance Max campaign, the setting I'm referring to can be basically achieved within the campaign settings section of your campaign. So if you scroll down right here to customer acquisition, in most situations you would not have this box checked, but if you want it to be more cold traffic now, ideally you want to start having some campaigns in there which are basically utilizing this rule, but then it's only bidding for new customers. This allows your campaigns to now go after cold traffic mostly and less retargeting. Ideally, you don't want to be just going into random commits and randomly turning this on, because this can destroy your results in some situations. You want to slowly, one at a time, start incorporating this from your best performing campaign, then slowly expanding to your other campaigns. And of course, giving it some time to actually prove itself, get you some results. But this process right here, this step number 4, is the step which takes the longest during this entire process, because now you have to actively wait and see how each campaign is performing once you start transitioning to cold traffic only versus retargeting. Now, by all means, you don't want to be doing everything cold traffic. You should still have 20% of your budget going towards retargeting, so make sure to keep that in mind before you move on to step 5, which is back-end optimization. By this point, we have a very strong product feed, we have a very strong approach for Google Ads, our account structure is on point, but we have something that's missing, and that is the actual landing page and the back-end optimizations. Because keep in mind, your conversion rates are going to be directly influenced by the strength of your back-end. It's not necessarily by just your product feed or your ad copy or the style of the ads that you're creating. Rather, it's about how strong are your email flows? How good is your SMS retargeting, your landing pages? Are you improving in terms of the results coming in, or are you just keeping it the same? All these things make a huge difference because overall they impact your business on a fundamental level. So the increased traffic and sales should be supported by the back end, because without this improving, your conversion rate with Google will not improve, and as a result, you'll never really be as profitable as you could be. Now, of course, there's a cap to this. You can't change your conversion rate to 5%, 10%, 50% even on a business level, but you can definitely improve it by 10, 20, 30, 40% even from the current conversion rate. So this is where now you want to look at the data coming in, start maybe making changes on the landing pages, the colors, the style, the overall upsells, downsells, the offer. All these things should be during step 5, because this is now when you're taking the focus off of just the campaigns and Google Ads side of things and now putting it on a fundamental business level, because this will now bring us to step 6, which is the final step of this blueprint, where now at this point everything should be in working order. It shouldn't be really perfect, but it should be more than ideal for your perfect audience, for your perfect customer. And this is what's going to now allow you to start scaling aggressively. At this point, it's going to become almost difficult for the Google Ads algorithm not to overspend your budgets. And you might notice it trying to spend over what you have set on a daily basis. If it's a $100 a day budget, it might be spending 120 or 150 consistently. It's letting you know that Google is primed to now spend more of your money, and you should increase your budget. So this is where you can go by 20% to 30% increases every 7 to 14 days. Start aggressively scaling your budgets across all of your campaigns and in total. Of course, don't scale all of your campaigns all at the same time, because if the scaling process doesn't work for whatever reason, then all of your campaigns will suffer versus just maybe one suffering because you scaled one and it just didn't perform that well for the next few days. So you want to keep that in mind when scaling aggressively, but by this point, it should be very doable for you to go from 50 to 100K to 200 to 500 even, because your foundation, all of the activities are surrounding your Google Ads account and your business are on point. This is the exact 6-step blueprint I've been taking to scale multiple brands beyond 6 and 10 figures per month. And if you run a brand doing 50,000 or more per month in revenue, you want to scale to the very next level, go onto my website, yourmarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.